Don't shout, thinking about tomorrow.
We are gathered here once again
I think our levels are about the same.
for Communication Steroids podcast. I'm Tim Gordon, and that over there is Roger Pike, and we're sort of just landing here on the helipad to give you another edition of our podcast, which, you know...
Well, you really jumped right in there, didn't you?
We did.
We were just goofing off, and then suddenly you were doing the show.
We were discussing, before we got out of the green room, an Al Franken book, and we think he's pretty funny. Whether you agree with his politics or not, he's a funny guy.
He's a funny guy.
And a great speaker. He does a lot of corporate gigs, actually. Yeah. So, in a sense, it ties into what we're talking about.
Exactly.
We should steal something from him.
Yeah. And you have hit the nail right on the head. Today's theme, if you will, is theft, and we think theft is good.
In public speaking, now let's define it. You're not plagiarizing something. You're not taking their speech word for word.
No.
You're borrowing style points. You're
or
using
appropriating
things.
Copyrighted material. We're not, asking you to commit grand theft. No.
But as a beginning or intermediate speaker, when it comes to learning what to do up on stage, steal from the masters. Exactly.
Go to the best. Do what they do, or at least try on what they do, like a suit of clothes, to see if it fits.
Because part of the process of becoming a public speaker is to figure out who you are on stage. Mm-hmm. And essentially, I think you want to come down to how do you express who you are in a public setting. You want to be you want to be real, but there's different ways to do that. And if you aren't familiar with doing that, if you aren't comfortable doing that, if you haven't gotten to the point of where you can just get up on stage and be that person, then you've got to try on different ways of figuring that out.
Exactly so. And I'm going to ask you a question that I'm going to answer myself.
What a clever guy.
Yeah, I know. I love doing things like that. What is one of the best places that you can go to steal from the great speakers?
I'm just waiting for the answer.
The public library.
Oh, really?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Because they have, on recording of some kind, record, tape, whatever, great speeches by great speakers. You can get John Kennedy's "Ask not what you can do for what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do."
His inaugural
address.
Yeah.
Winston Churchill's famous Battle of Britain speech: "We shall fight them on the beaches. We shall fight them in the skies. We shall never surrender. Never, never, never surrender."
Exactly.
That it's a great speech, and they have recordings of those, so you can actually hear the great speakers give those great speeches, and you can rob them blind.
And if the library is too far away or you're too lazy, I bet if you just go to YouTube or start looking around online, you're going to find a lot of that stuff online.
A lot of that stuff online, yeah. But Kennedy, Churchill, King, Reagan, all monster talent speakers, and all
Bill
people.
Clinton grew up as a kid wanting to be a public speaker, but you want to be an excellent public speaker. Look where it got him. It got him elected to the presidency twice.
Yeah, and of course they called him. Let's give equal time for equal party. They called Ronald Reagan. They didn't call him the great thinker.
No,
they didn't call him the great statesman. They called him the great communicator,
because he was very good in front of a camera and in front of a microphone, and that came a lot from his acting skills through the many years, the decades he spent in Hollywood before he decided to get into politics and became governor of California and then later on president.
So that's one of the groups of people that you can steal from are the great speakers of the past. Other great speakers, great communicators that are just as far away as your television set, and I'm thinking here of, for example, network anchors.
Oh yeah,
these are great speakers, great communicators, even your local television anchors, but so much more so the network people who are chosen from vast hordes in incredible competition to get those absolutely plumb multi-million-dollar salary jobs. I mean, they're really good at it. And I mean, there's a bunch of stuff you can learn from them. I mean, you can learn the importance of confidence. Have you ever seen a network anchor who didn't look like they were completely at home?
They knew exactly what they were doing there, even if it was mostly scripted.
Yeah, and their air of confidence is important. Their preparation, obviously. I mean, everything can be scripted down to the movement of an eyebrow.
Yeah.
So they're completely prepared. And yet for all of that preparation, you get the sense that they're talking to you. That is their great talent, the sense that it's one-on-one. They can see you through the television and are talking to you.
I always thought Tom Brokaw scripted his eyebrow moves.
I think maybe he does, yeah. And then lastly, timing and pausing. And we may not have given enough attention on our podcast to the importance of timing and pausing. I mean, it's absolutely key.
Timing is everything.
What's that old joke? what's the most important thing in here? Ask
Timing.
Me yeah. Go ahead, ask me.
What's the most important thing?
Timing.
About comedy.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you're right. Timing is critical, and pausing is critical as well.
And pausing is critical. And pausing is critical not just so you can catch your breath. Pausing is also important to give drama to parts of your speech. If you're making an important point and you're about to deliver the most important element of that important point, stop. Calm down. Get quieter. Let the sense of the moment build through silence. Use that pause. Pausing, if nothing else, it gives your audience a chance to catch up.
Yeah, your audience will take a moment and go, oh, he's got something important to say. He must be pausing for a good reason.
Exactly so. So that's another resource of people you can steal from are network anchors. I mean, down at your local church, do you have a good preacher?
Typically, a preacher is a pretty good speaker.
Is a pretty darn good speaker. I mean, not all of them are, obviously.
But they are in that position to do that, and they've got to be fairly good to maintain that position. And chances of a lot of them are very, very good.
Now, of course, the sermon is a specific style of speech. It's very unlikely that you're going to sermonize when you deliver a public speech, unless you're becoming a preacher. But yet you can still learn from them. You can learn the sense of the dramatic. You can learn pausing and timing from people who are doing it and do it every single solitary week.
Yeah, because chances are they're giving a 20 to 30-minute presentation every week. Now, another interesting thing about preachers I find is that they don't just give the sermon. They sort of MC the whole service. A lot of churches will have someone that takes the position of, a celebrant, if you want to call them that. Mm-hmm. But often it's the preacher who introduces everybody, says welcome, and then that is pretty much extemporaneous of how they're greeting people, they're talking about, they're getting people comfortable with being there, they're welcoming new guests. They're drawing you in, and they're doing that in a very friendly way, and you can learn a lot from that.
Absolutely so. So, I mean, any competent professional speaker, and a preacher is one of those, has something to teach you if you will just stop for a minute, and instead of focusing on their message, now I'm not telling you in church you should not pay attention to the message, but instead focus on how they're delivering that message and what you can take from it. And, of course, the last group of people that you can really learn a lot from that I wanted to include is, obviously, us.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, we don't mean to, get on our soapbox, but we are. Roger's been a public speaker for, 40 years, 35 years?
35
and
years,
I've been speaking probably 15 or 20 years and behind a microphone for 30 years in radio, which is, you've got an audience there, and you've got to learn how to speak, you've got to learn how to pause, you've got to learn how to...
something about what we're doing, so steal it.
Yeah, you're welcome to borrow from us, and obviously we're doing a very casual conversation, but we pick a topic, we talk about it, we discuss it, we make some notes, but we don't script this out at all. Yeah, not at all. That part was scripted, by the way. We had the little guy in the corner holding up the sign that says, "at all." Anyway, thanks for joining us here on Communication Steroids, the podcast. Yes, it's okay to steal from great speakers and do it to become your own best speaker. Thanks, Roger.